You are watching the New American Media. Live from the Milky Way galaxy, the solar system, the planet you know as Earth. From the United States of America, California, Los Angeles to be specific, welcome to this Friday, September 21st episode of the New American Media. And it's a bit of a split show, so it's kind of agree to disagree. It's kind of the Unhappy Hour. The Unhappy Hour is a sports show. Agree to disagree. Serious political stuff. We're blending them today with special guest Blake Walley. Blake is a regular co-host of mine over at freedomizerradio.com on his program Eccentric Perspective, Monday, Wednesday, Thursday, from noon to 1:30 p.m. Pacific. Be sure that you check that out. You can go ahead and get the podcast of that by searching Eccentric Perspective. And check out the freedomizerradio.com network. Today's a very interesting day for sure. Kind of hard to figure out where we should be paying attention in the news. You got NASA flying a space shuttle across the sky. Went right over our house. I mean, not right over, but right over. Kind of. You know, and you see the world starting to implode. You see a battle royal occurring across this great planet. China and Japan are arguing with each other, and Muslims are arguing with Jews, and Christians are trying to figure out what to do, and it just seems really stressful right now, which is why we're here to talk about it. Thank you for joining us today. I want to welcome Blake to the program. Blake, how you doing, sir?
Very well, Brian. Thanks for having me.
Thank you very much for being here. I also want to say, where can they find you? Why don't you tell people what you do over at Eccentric Perspective real quick?
All right, I am a radio host over at the Freedomizer Radio Network. It's part of Blog Talk, and if people want to check it out, it's got interactive chat on the Freedomizer Radio website, and there's also a podcast, which is really cool, so people can listen anytime. You go to iTunes and you type in, look for podcasts, go to Eccentric Perspective, ECCENTRIC, and you can download any show. And you can also go to an archive over at Blog Talk Radio, so hey, it's a cool way to get the news anytime. So
I'll tell you what, Blake, let me do this. We're actually getting a lot of choppy feedback on your audio line. Should we try it again on this same line or try a different number? Because it's actually pretty choppy.
Yeah, it's kind of odd. This is a landline phone. But yes, please give me a call back on this number. And then it's well better than my cell phone anyway. If you're having trouble with Skype, I think this would probably be the best course. But yeah, we can try to reconnect and get the electronic gremlins out of the way.
All right, let's try that. We're going to go ahead and get back to Mr. Blake.
Okay, greetings, Brian.
Yeah, it sounds like I can hear you now. Why don't you explain one more time, if people were unable to hear you explain who you are, what you're doing over on freedomizerradio.com on Monday, Wednesday, and Thursday from noon to 1:30, the place where I've co-hosted with you for a couple of months now over on the Monday shows and some of the Wednesdays and Thursdays here and there. Why don't you remind people, if we can hear you unchoppy this time,
all right.
Remind them where they can find you.
Blake the Eccentric, Blake Walley. I have a show called The Eccentric Perspective. It's a show with outside-the-box politics and philosophy and what I would call gonzo journalism. And, Brian, you've been over there Mondays and sometimes the occasional Thursdays. It's been good to have you. Get some good dialogue rolling. There's a lot of crazy news these days, and it's been fun to cover it. So, but yes, I have it's on freedomizerradio.com. There's interactive chat, but people can also get any show on a podcast very simply. Just by going to iTunes and typing in Eccentric Perspective, ECCENTRIC, I also have a big archive over at Blog Talk Radio. So.
Yeah, so on Blog Talk Radio, how do they, with the iTunes thing, they find you by clicking subscribe for Eccentric Perspective, right?
I believe that's how it works. Yes.
Okay, we need to test this. We need to test this personally because I haven't done it. I'm a bad co-host, Blake. Well, I'll tell you what. Speaking of bad, this is something that Blake brought to our attention. I don't know, maybe 2 weeks ago, and just absolutely blew me away. This project put together, it's by a group, Rap News. It's called Rap News 15, Big Brother is Watching. I'm going to play it for a second. I want you to kind of soak up the content of this, and then, Blake, I think maybe we can just kind of get into the topic of this Orwellian march, this race, this sprint that it seems like some people are trying to hurry up and get to, and you just got to ask the question, why? So I'm going to play this, and we'll come back on the other side and listen to it, all right?
Cool.
We'll keep your mic hot. If you want to comment it in real time, I can pull it back a little.
Welcome back, netizens, to this newest edition in Juice Media series of rap news journalism with me, Robert Foster. This evening we're actively delving in depth to facts which affect all of us who dwell on this internet, and we've got to give a special welcome to all the ladies and agents from the NSA, ASIO, MI5. Glad you're listening in, because today's show is all about surveillance and how it's spreading from the streets into our modems. As we speak, laws are being tacitly written in to implement ways of controlling the expanse of this internet to keep us safe, we're told. But from whom? And will this place ever be the same if these plans go through? To find out, we connect with our first guest to comment on the matter. We're live at the Panopticon with General Baxter. General? Son? Good to have you back again with us. Explain why the state is spying on us.
My fellow Oceanians, as you know, we've always been at war with Eurasia. Or is it East Asia? Either way, it's war and we need division to wage it. But now the proles are connecting online, bypassing these illusory divisions of race, religion, and nationality.
Sounds grand to me.
It's a catastrophe. Centuries of hard work are being undone, profits are vanishing, and it's due to the internet. It's empowering humanity. We need to get this snafu under control rapidly.
How?
Behold the latest weapon in the war of terror. Our greatest invention since 9/11. Guaranteed to keep us free and safe forever. I give you the surveillance state, ladies and generals. Our secret wires log your key style. Monitor every single number on your speed dial. Rewind straight to your position with facial recognition and pinpoint you within 0.03 of a mile. We've put eyes everywhere without consulting you, keeping you safe whether or not you want us to. Soon there'll be no freedoms left for threatening. Then we'll have won the war. Take that, terrorism.
Brilliant. Thank you, General. We now interview our resident guru, Terrence Moonseed, for a different view.
Greetings.
How does this situation look?
I have one word for you, Robert. Double plus ungood. The world populace of 7.4 billion are all headed in the direction of Orwellian totalitarian oblivion. My voice is hoarse, yelling about stellar winds, cold chilling them and trap wire weaving through the world wide web we all dwelling in. Face it, the all-seeing eyes in all of our Facebooks like a virus, and in these iPhones with Siri, or should I say Iris. Next in line is RFID devices and mind chips triggered by chemtrails the plague spray the sky with. This time it's too far. Check out the base they're building in Utah, where they'll be storing all your data for over a century. It's FUBAR. And under the outback is an entire tunnel of wires, an echelon base called Pine Gap to hijack our mother Gaia.
Hey, maybe your mother's gayer.
Boo-hoo. Why didn't you just kill yourself like most of your troops do?
That's it. Now you're on the cast iron list.
Hang on, General. Why weren't we informed about this?
Sorry we didn't tell you about our grand plan before. It was meant to be a surprise, under wraps in a store. But some spoil sports had to go and ruin it for all by blowing whistles in spite of the damn law.
Bill, Benny, and Thomas Drake are trailblazers for leaking these tactics.
Hey, civil liberty activists, this is all legal. Anything we do now actually is.
How did...
You can't question my authority thanks to this.
And that shit's global, people. In Australia, it's now legal for the government to store all SMSs, searches, and emails. Australians, it's taking place under your nose. Unless you wake up, all your data are belong to ASIO.
Come on, everyone knows. You can trust the government now. If you've got nothing to hide, you've got nothing to worry about.
That might be the case with things that are happening now, because most people agree with most of the laws that are being handed down. But once the Illuminati reveal their agenda for you, this surveillance will enforce laws you no longer consent to. But by then it'll be too late to protest too, and anything you've ever said, typed, or browsed can or will be used against you.
I'm confused. So what should we do then?
What should we do? Nothing. This is all an illusion. It's just a ride, a delusion, the Matrix, the Maya deceiving us.
Oh, you hippies really make our job so much easier.
Sorry to interrupt, but we're picking up a signal from beyond the space-time continuum. Quick, switch on the juice channeling portal. Wait, is that George Orwell?
Good day too.
Wow, what do we owe this honor to?
I tried to warn you noobs, but I see you are actually fools, or else you thought this was an instruction manual.
Yes, so can you advise us? What would you have us do?
An open and universal internet is the most effective tool you have to address the issues that afflict the world at hand. Therefore, protecting it is the most essential task that stands before your generation.
I think I understand.
Hush, man! You must not lose the internet. Heed this mantra. Who controls the internet controls the data. And who controls the data controls the future.
We're losing you!
I leave you with a tool to use.
An onion? Don't be simple, Robert. This is but a simile. It stands for Tor.
Tor?
Google it. It's for anonymity. This onion router open network helps considerably against tyranny, but its abilities only work if all you use it consistently.
And even if you don't use it, run it so its force swells.
Thanks, Mr. Orwell.
From now on, call me George Torwell. If we'd had such tools when I wrote this, well, it would have been so much simpler to tell Big Brother to go f himself. The sucking piece of shit.
Thanks, George Torwell, for manifesting direct from this memory hole of history to impress on us these messages. We're told we need safety, which is precious, yes, but can a society that can enforce all its laws ever progress? Hindsight shows that many figures guilty of thought crime turned out to be luminaries and heroes before their time. But if a surveillance state had reigned then in this form and design, just think of all the progress we may have all been denied. Could lobbies for women's or gay rights have appeared and thrived? Would revolutionary ideals have materialized? Would science have pioneered or even survived if every word had been monitored by thought police and spies? Big Brother brings chilling effects, freezing our collective hopes. He doesn't protect our safety, but protects the status quo and threatens this internet, the one channel yet uncontrolled, whose openness we are now called upon to effect and uphold.
That is Rap News 15. Big Brother is watching. Rap News 15. Go ahead and take a look. Blake, you sent that to us. What do you think?
Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
It's the Juice Media.
Thank you.
People can check them out on either YouTube or on Twitter. It's Robert Foster. He's really talented guy out there, activist, and they've been doing these little rap videos for probably a few years. Yeah, so they go about 15. They probably come out with one every few months. Very well done.
Well,
And what's up?
What are your thoughts on the surveillance state? You know, the topic that they're going into in great detail. You're hearing today about some sort of executive order to take control of the internet that the president's trying to push through. I don't know if you've heard about that one. We can talk about that in a minute. But just in general, why do you think it's important to pay attention to stuff like this?
Well, if the internet, it depends on our government and basically how much credibility you think they have, or the mainstream media. It's basically about, at some level, they probably want to just kind of control the information. The internet obviously doesn't work for you when you're, engaged in a lot of corruption. So I guess that's the argument, and that's where you get, you get a little Orwell at the end of that rap video. Certainly a lot of people aren't really trusting much of the government and the media. I've seen an report today also from Gallup. The media is really losing credibility fast, and so a lot of people are concerned that the government is overreaching quite a bit with a surveillance grid and kind of trying to keep it and try to redefine what facts are, of course. So they want their information, they don't like alternative information. They don't like having a discussion. They like to control the media, if you will.
Well, this is not a new thing. People have been concerned about this for a long time. I mean, George Orwell wrote 1984, trying to explain, and Animal Farm for that matter, trying to get into some of the dangers of really allowing a government to take power like this. Because when you know what everybody's thinking and who can be located everywhere with GPS and warrantless wire searches, you start to wonder, like, how long before the bad guy, before the sociopath grabs control of the power? It doesn't take long if we're not all protected for a bad guy to do or a bad woman or a bad group of people to do a whole bunch of damage if we're not protected. So this is an article I pulled up regarding that, about Obama's internet order. This is from CNBC back on July 11 of 2012. Let me just hit a couple of points here so that we know what we're talking about. Washington cynics go on high alert on Fridays around holidays. That's traditionally when the White House puts out news it would rather didn't get a whole lot of coverage. That appears to be what happened on the Friday after 4th of July, as the White House revealed President Barack Obama's new executive order clarifying the federal government's communications authority in a national crisis. Here's what it is. Entitled Assignment of National Security and Emergency Preparedness Communications Functions. Sounds like a wonderful read, doesn't it, Blake?
Right.
The blandly written document lays out a series of directives to government agencies to prepare plans to be able to communicate with the public, allies, and other nations in the event of a national crisis. It seems to assert the government can take control of private telecommunications technology, presumably including those used for the Internet, for government communications in an emergency. I don't see why anyone would be worried about that, Blake.
Yeah, I guess it depends on what level you trust the government and trust these people and what they're doing. I don't think a lot of people are really paying attention to these subjects and just kind of think that everything's fine. So that's the concern. And, of course, there are a lot of people that are fighting against this kind of stuff, and you're seeing these cybersecurity bills and stuff get shut down constantly, and you're always seeing other forms of control to try to control the Internet, ACTA and PIPA and Open and CISPA, and they keep getting shut down, but they keep trying to find new ways to ram it through. So, but since they've been having so many struggles trying to get these cybersecurity bills, and the last one just got shut down pretty recently. It's a Lieberman-Collins cybersecurity bill. So what they're doing right now is contemplating coming up with an executive order that would basically override that. So if you can't get, if you can't get it through Congress and the Senate, then I guess the next step is to act like a dictator and just make an executive order on it. So that appears to be what they're doing. They're still working out some details a little bit. A few issues to resolve at the highest levels, but there was an article put out yesterday, and of course, I'm sure Obama can't wait to sign it. So,
well, it's not like he had any problem signing the National Defense Authorization Act, or NDAA, on New Year's Eve last year when he thought nobody was paying attention to it.
Yeah, he said he wasn't going to sign it, and then it turned out that he wasn't giving him enough power. So they had to redo it, I guess, and so, yes. No, he was happy to sign it, but they tried to sneak it through, which they did on New Year's Eve when no one was paying attention. But the other problem is that the so-called liberal media doesn't really seem to cover it because it's their guy. I'm sure there would be an absolute uproar if Bush and Cheney would have tried to pass such legislature. But when it's NDAA, they act like nothing happens. So you won't see a lot of NDAA or Fast and Furious reporting by the liberal media, and it's a shame that there seemed to be a merger of corporations with the media and the government. So it's a disturbing trend we've seen lately, and we just want to have an open discussion about these types of issues. And if I'm wrong, I'm happy to have the debate about it. I just want to be in the right. I just want to see some transparency. I want to see the corruption end. I want to see prosperity back and the American dream back. But we're not going to have these things if these sorts of bills get through. If we start pushing through NDAA and get rid of the Internet, then we're probably not going to get those things back. So it is pretty alarming, and we all need to stand together and fight against these types of bills.
Well, I'll tell you what, you're talking about blending interests together. There's a big outcry right now about GMO crops, and we're going to welcome Pam Larry to our program coming up in a couple of hours here on Agree to Disagree. She's been our guest a couple of times. You mentioned GMO, government combining with corporate interests and really just doing whatever it takes to make quick money, regardless of the long-term circumstances. And there are a lot of people that have stood up against GMO crops and said, we want to know if the genetically modified materials that some reports are saying are causing tumors and cancer in rats, why is that going into us? What's with this diabetic uptick that we have? What's going on with all the obesity in America? What's going on with infertility? What's going on with all of the cancer? And there are people just saying, hey, we want to label it. We're not going to necessarily accuse you of this, but we want to know is this in our food? You know, and it's like there are some common sense issues where most people could just say, all right, well, yeah, that seems fair. I would like to know so I could make a well-informed decision if some people are saying it's dangerous. But, you know, who controls the data controls the future, says Juice Media in that Rap News number 15. Please go check it out.
Right.
So I'll tell you what. I mean, we have a few issues we can talk about. We can get into some GMO crops. We can
I can touch on that just even briefly. I'm looking at a protest sign about that, and it's basically saying, like, well, to Monsanto, if you're so proud of your products, why won't you just label them? I mean, this is common sense. And I'm looking at another thing. You're talking about the merger here. But Monsanto and pesticide companies have now spent, get this, rather than just have their GMOs labeled on food, they're actually spent $19 million to kill Proposition 37. I mean, that should tell you everything you need to know. They're paying so they can basically sneak their stuff into your food and not have to tell you about it. So why don't they want you to know? Obviously they're hiding something, and it's just it's unbelievable that we actually have to even discuss these sorts of things. This is like something you would see in a movie or something. This isn't real. This is Twilight Zone or something.
Well,
very strange.
The thing to remember with all this is that without even saying we know this stuff is bad, take any of that commentary out of there, or if you're so proud of it, why don't you advertise it? Take all of that stuff out of there and just leave it at, I want to know. I want to know if the food I'm consuming has been genetically modified, so I can make a decision on how I choose to feed myself without casting aspersions or accusations or blame. Let's even go, take those 2 steps backward from the issue and just say, I have a right to know what's going on with the nuclear fuel that's being spent and perhaps dumped in the ocean. I want to know what's being sprayed in the skies. I want to know the real nuclear fallout from what happened in Japan as these products are starting to wash up on the Pacific shore in America. I want to know what's going on with fracking. I want things clean. I want to be energy independent. I want to have energy. I don't necessarily want to be an Amish person and living completely off the grid without it, but we have to be responsible with this, just like anyone would want to be responsible with anything that they own. And this planet belongs to us, but we belong to it too. And that's a far cry from joining some sort of Al Gore type theory where we should all pay a carbon tax. Look, I'm stopping well short of any of that stuff because that's so ripe for fraud.
Another big issue,
Yeah, it's another thing. But the point is, we want to know what is happening to us in our environment, and the fact that these companies are scared to actually put a little label on there. Come on, it's not a big deal to add a little logo in your digital packaging plant to include a little GMO sticker. It's not complicated. But I will say, Trader Joe's, all of their products that carry the label mark Trader Joe's on them, it's all GMO free. They've done the research, they've made their own products, and they do not use anything GMO. So if you don't have time to study the issue, just go to Trader Joe's. They're not a sponsor yet, but I think I'm going to reach out to them, see if they want me to be a sponsor. But I'll tell you what. How about this, Blake? Why don't we take a quick reset? We have a few issues. The UN Small Arms Treaty, fast and furious, regarding that Univision interview yesterday with Barack Obama and when he was blaming Bush for what happened there. We can talk about QE3, quantitative easing 3, or the continued devaluation of the U.S. Federal Reserve note or dollar through inflation, which is theft. We can talk about Pelosi's comments saying that Bush left us in the depths of hell. That's fantastic. 4 years later, still we can't take responsibility for what's going on. And, of course, the 47% comment. So why don't we do this? Why don't we take a quick 60-second break, Blake? 60-second break, Blake. Let's see, that's what threw me off there, the break, Blake.
I hear ya.
I dare you to say that 3 times fast. Go.
Blake break, Blake break, Blake break.
Come on, that's your name. You got one more practice.
I know. I've said it enough times, so it's all good.
All right, so
I'll get stuck on one of these sometimes.
Well, we'll do this then.
Too easy. All right.
We'll take this quick timeout. I'm not even going back there. And make sure that if you want to follow Blake on Twitter, he's at Eccentric99. We'll be right back in about 60 seconds here on TNAM Radio. My name is Brian Engelman. Thank you for listening. If you are just now finding us, go ahead and subscribe to our page on Facebook. I'm sorry, YouTube. I'm telling you, Blake, it's one of these days. All these competing ideas in the head. Like our page on Facebook at The New American Media. Go to Twitter at American_media_ and subscribe to YouTube.com/The New American Media. That's why we do these, because we're trying to get rational thinking people together at the same times and places, whether it's Facebook or Twitter or YouTube. It doesn't matter. We'll be right back on thenewamericanmedia.com. Hi, it's Brian from thenewamericanmedia.com. I'm a sports fan. I was raised in Cleveland, spent 25 years in Ohio. I watched the drive, the fumble, the shot too. I watched Art Modell steal the Cleveland Browns and win a Super Bowl over in Baltimore. I watched a horrible coach named Bill Belichick go on to the Patriots and win Super Bowls over there. Hooray. I am a bitter sports fan. Let's not even talk about what happened with he who shall not be named, who went to South Beach to, take his talents there. Excuse me, I almost threw up in my mouth a little bit there. I am a sports fan who cares to talk about the things that matter to me. That is the Indians, the Cavs, the Browns, and the Buckeyes. But of course I pay attention to national sports, and we discuss that on our show as well. That's why we have The Unhappy Hour every single Friday at 3:30 p.m. Pacific. Sit down, have a drink. It's the end of a long work week, and we can all get together and talk about the unhappy times that we've had as sports fans. We've all had them. We've had ups and downs, but as Cleveland fans, we only have downs. Join us. If you're tired of the other stuff, take a look at thenewamericanmedia.com. You are watching The New American Media.